the things that you may have come out. You know, as far as any NDAs, if you can't talk about something, that's cool. We'll not talk about it. Just listen to it. All right, thanks for coming out, guys. This is great. Who wants to start? Let it rip.
I've got a few projects that just launched onto Showtime and Amazon. The Lurker, Abandonment, and Coven is coming out in a few months to select theaters. And that is about it.
I did a Netflix TV series that's going to be coming out either end of this year or next year, Jupiter's Legacy. And the second project through my company is going to be released on April 21st, give or take, which is Penance Lane, which Scout is in. And we are going to be re-releasing. It's okay, I got you covered. Don't worry about it. Thanks, Scout. Thanks for helping promote my stuff. I appreciate it. Jesus Christ. And then we are going to be re-releasing Compound Fracture.
Okay, yes, we can review. Let me talk into two and then echo.
Go.
My movie that is called I Am Fear that we shot like a couple of years ago is coming out finally, March 3rd. Has a limited theatrical February 20th in 5 cities. If you live in LA, Chicago, or 3 other ones that I can't remember now. But it has like a really big Walmart Redbox order, so if you ever get movies on Redbox or Walmart, it's called I Am Fear, March 3rd. And another movie I'm in just got into South by Southwest, which is called Lucky, directed by the amazing Natasha Kermani. And I did also just sign my Lifeway NDA, and I wish I could say what it is, but it'll be the next year, and then I maybe can tell you about it in a year and a half.
Nothing really, to be quite honest. Not really working on anything. I had a movie's coming out February 14th called Camp Coldbrook with Chad Michael. And got that reference. And that Joe Dante produced, and it's probably one of the only horror movies that I've done that like your kids could see because there is minimal blood and it's kind of that fun 80s style, which is really cool. And Joe and I are working on something that he's going to produce that I'm going to direct, that he just optioned for me. So it's nice to have him as my mentor since, hey, look what shirt I'm wearing. How ironic is that? Always showing my love. So that's it, just being a mom and, trying to wrangle that. That's what I'm working on right now.
So let's discuss the Halloween franchise and how you guys got involved with
that. Mine was a long process. I've said this many times. It's just, they were auditioning a lot of girls for Laurie, and I was the last one cast, and just did a lot of screen tests with these ladies, and yeah. It was a long process.
So, how did you go about getting involved? Did you have your agent?
Oh yeah, it was just an audition, and back then it was the Untitled Rob Zombie project, so it wasn't even Halloween, so I had no idea that it was even this franchise. And so when I found out that it was Halloween was towards the testing with the other girls, and I didn't realize how big Halloween was until I got the job and then realized that everybody was comparing me to Jamie Lee Curtis like right off the bat. And the next morning I'm 17, I haven't even shot anything, and I was like, oh okay. But yeah, it was a great opportunity, and I loved it so much. And to have a family like this is pretty cool.
Well, for me, I did Devil's Rejects with Rob, and he called me up. He says, I'm doing this project and I want you to be in it. I want you to play Michael Myers. And if you don't do it, I'm not going to do it. So I was like, okay, cool. What are we looking at? And I signed on for a couple, and then afterwards found out that Rob had only signed on for one. I said, you better do the second one, man. So that's how I got involved. He just called me up and said, "Hey, you're doing it." So I was like, "Okay, how do you tell Rob no? You know? No, I don't want to do it now. Okay."
I'll do that.
I just had a regular audition. I wasn't even living in LA at the time, and it was one of my first auditions. And I feel like I was just super lucky. And he cast it from the tape, so then we had a test all together, and I felt like even though I supposedly had the role already, I was like, if I suck, I'm obviously gonna not get the role. So I felt like it was still an audition, even though it wasn't officially. And yeah, we all had a great time, and that's kind of it.
Mine's story is kind of the same. I actually was at a convention in Boston, and a fan came up to me and said to me, or I hear Rob Zombie's doing another Halloween and you're going to be Laurie. And I was like, wait, what? No, I don't know anything about either one of those things. And then I called my manager and said, hey, there's this rumor going around that Rob's doing a Halloween, and would you kind of see what the story is? So she called, and they said, yeah, he's doing another Halloween, and he doesn't want anybody from any of the other Halloweens to be in it. I was like, oh, well, but there we go. And then kind of worked my way in. I would never have been Laurie because A, I'm old, and B, that just would be weird, and I couldn't be more wrong for that role. So, but I didn't think I would actually be right for any of the girls because I was, it just would be weird to come back as somebody else. But casting said, hey, let's bring her in to just audition for Annie, which felt more right, and just get her on tape. And that's pretty much what I did. I just went and auditioned and signed in and went in and did it like everybody else. And then I guess Rob saw it, because I never met him before, and was like, okay, well, crap. I guess that just kind of fits. So that's kind of how it happened.
All right, so as a DJ, one of the questions that I always have to ask people is, do you have a favorite band or favorite CD or favorite song that's kind of like a clutch go-to piece?
Old school rock.
Yeah.
Old school rock.
I like Bohemian Rhapsody is always just like it's like, I don't know, it's just my favorite song. I love Queen.
My kid loves Queen too. I'm like a singers and songwriters of the 70s. Like that's Joni Mitchell and Chicago and Air Supply and Lionel Richie and all the Carpenters and all kinds of love songs. It's like a time life. The 10-disc collection where they're walking on the beach. I actually have bought 2 sets, so don't laugh. Before you could download music, So I was 18 probably, buying it, calling up on the phone at 3 in the morning from a hotel room with my credit card or my debit card. You did? They're so great. It's awesome.
I say the other one is Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
That's my other one.
I like listening to a lot of Janis Joplin. Literally every morning I have it. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, actually, she was voted the person of the least talented from high school. And
That's nice they even have that category.
Yeah, why the fuck do they even have that category?
well, it wasn't that they had a category, that's what her classmates.
Oh, that's.
Whatever.
And look at her now.
Right. Good stuff.
You know what they said in my yearbook? They said I was going to be the next Molly Ringwald. And I was like, was not a good thing at the time, okay? She had no career, she was great, right, in the 80s, and then she fell off. And so I thought it was meant to be an insult, but I was like, who cares?
But then they found out that everybody loves Molly Ringwald.
Yeah, I was like, at least she, was made a living doing what she loves to do, right?
So I'm going to stray a little further off topic and ask you guys about your pets. Do you guys have any pets? Cats, dogs? Oh, no, I know. This is. Look, we sat here and we talked in Charlotte, and I'm not going to ask you the same questions over and over. I guess we're done. So I need to know about your pets.
I have an adorable dog named Cody. Cody! Kodiak when he's in trouble. He's 11. He's a beagle poodle mix. He's the fucking cutest thing in the world. Literally, he looks like a live version of Snoopy. He's so cute. Everybody loves him. Everybody wants to take care of him. Yeah. Oh, I know these dogs already. Last night, you want to tell the story from last night?
We got 3 dogs. We got an English Mastiff that's 12, just about 12 and a half, pit bull and a little Bichon, so I got one of every size.
I have like our family dog, Brady, who's a golden retriever, and my little rescue cat, Button, who is like a dog. She acts like a dog. She's my baby. I still foster. I used to rescue a lot of dogs and cats and fostered and found lots of homes for them. And now, like, if people bring me their animals, I'll still do it. Yeah. Yeah, best friends and much love. If you guys are looking ever to adopt, definitely check them out. They're all over the place, and like they have different, like they're in different cities. And also, you can go visit best friends. I think in Utah, they have like a place where they have all these. Like they took all the pit bulls from Michael Vick, right? So yeah, I like it.
I for the first time don't have any pets. I clean up enough shit as is at home, so I'm good.
Well,
Too
you
many-
have a
too many
toddler, so that
butts
kind of
away.
counts as like 6 pets.
Did what?
So you have a toddler, so that counts as like
I got
6
two.
pets.
I got a 3-year-old, almost 3, and a 1-year-old. So there's it's done. I finally, for the first time, I have not had an animal since I'm like 16. So after my pit bull Thor passed, like right before my first kid was born, I was like, I can't do it again. And I never, because my grandma had a dog that died many years ago. My grandma was around, and I was like, why don't you ever get a dog again? She's like, nope, can't do it anymore after I lost that one. So I think that was kind of my last after my pet went. And you know, I would probably want to get another huge burly dog, and with babies I'm just not quite there yet, feel comfortable yet. So maybe when they get a little bit older.
Which one was the one you brought to Charlotte that was on stage?
Oh, Jagger, he's here again somewhere. Oh, there he is.
Oh, right.
Hi,
That's my
Jagger.
dude right there. What's up, Jagger?
Hello.
Yeah, he was the highlight of our panel, actually.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
He
Yes.
stole the
Well,
whole
he's
show from
available.
everybody.
He's still here. He's, you know.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you brought it with you. All right, so I guess let's get back to Halloween real quick. As far as your characters, how much leeway did Rob give you with those? Was he real kind of a high-weight character? Did you have any?
Yeah, he wouldn't let me say a thing.
Damn it, man.
I never understood that.
Tilt to the left, not to the right.
I tried every day, but you know, he wouldn't let me speak.
You did speak.
I did, actually, I did. And the one I said, die.
So how long did it take you to memorize your lines?
Weeks.
She get paid as under 5.
It was tough. It's like, you know.
You're wrong.
You're right.
It's like,
Liv!
stop
Wait,
saying
no, that's not it.
Yeah, he's like, wait, no, I'm too nervous. What was my line? He sang it a few times. I was like, what are you doing? No, man, you know, Rob's like really trusting. He's such a trusting director. And it's just like, he kind of just lets you play, which is so, I mean, I was, like I said, I was 17 when I did that, and it was like my first huge thing. And I mean, to have a director just like trust, you know, have you do whatever your instincts are telling you, and he and him kind of like approve all the time. And also too, it was kind of vice versa. He would tell you to do anything, you would do it. You know, so there's like this trusting relationship between an actor and director. But yeah, he just let you like do it yourself, see what you wanted to create.
Yeah, I mean, I think at one point he was like that scene that's I think in the director's cut where we're walking down the street and like talk about the French professor. Remember, he was just like, say something in another language, Kristina. Like he's like, I don't know a bunch of languages, just do something. I'm like, no pressure. Like this is my first big movie, and he's like asking me to practically like, write the lines. And so, but he totally did trust me, trusted us to come up with like a kind of nice improv, and it worked. So I guess he was right. You know, he's good like that. He's really good. I think he does good. You know, he likes casting the right people, and then he lets them go.
So if you were writing or directing this, is there anything about your character that you wouldn't change?
Maybe I wouldn't have fingered the bagel, but that also was
That was our favorite part.
I still regret that every time I watch it. I'm like, why did you do that? But that was the thing that Rob was like, this seems like boring. And I was like, what do you want me to do? He's like, just try to do something with the bagel. I was like, okay. So that was interesting. But yeah, maybe that. Maybe not giving Dee a heart attack. Maybe.
I wouldn't think of the bagel.
Ah!
That should have been in the outtakes.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
Mikey's gotta eat too.
Ah! Are there children in the audience? Yes, there's children. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, the kids are like, what's a bagel?
I mean, I also just said something inappropriate. No.
But it was fun.
It was.
I just would have lived, maybe.
Yeah.
I'll say dinner with that one.
Yeah. We all would have lived.
Alright, so I'm also a prop collector from different films and stuff like that. I've got some pretty cool things that have got from different actors and whatnot. Were you guys able to keep any of the props from the film, or is that something that you have written into your contracts or anything like that, where you get certain pieces?
I have everything from I have the Halloween 1 mask, Halloween mask, the orange mask, the jumpsuits, everything. The
How'd you run
knives.
away with everything?
Huh?
You just did it. You just did it. It's like this kind of
Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna just wear this home.
The studio security guy was 5'9". He wasn't stopping me.
Yeah,
Take that away.
yeah, we're good. No, actually, when we finished, we wrapped the very first one. The handed me the knife and said, "You did a great job. You deserve this." So he gave me the hero knife, and then he gave me the one in the second one. So that's how I got those. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get to keep anything from the first one. I actually just signed like a few of my clothing this weekend, and I kind of got really emotional when they brought it to my table. I was like, I really want this. And they're like, well, I've got a lot of money. I was like, okay, cool. but I did keep a lot of clothing from the second one. Yeah, that one I had a little bit more leverage, I guess.
do what I did. You buy it back from the fan that bought it.
Yeah, but that was really expensive.
I did. We were supposed to be able to keep something from our wardrobe. That's what's usually in the contract. And now I've learned since that I take like one piece with me after whatever movie I do. I pick something, usually the thing that's covered in blood if I've died in it, or the staple jacket or thing that kind of represents the character. And I really was excited to get that costume, to get the jacket. I didn't keep anything from the second one. I don't really have anything cool.
Not
like,
that
I didn't
robe?
have, like, a thing.
That robe?
No, it was a Letterman jacket, yeah. And a fan, literally I was at a show in, I don't even know where I was, somewhere, and someone came up and said that they had my costume from Halloween, and I got upset. Because I thought it was just on hold at the studio somewhere in case they ever need, I didn't know that they actually sold it. So my husband saw that I was upset and was actually kind enough to, which I didn't know till after, to go to the guy and say, I want to buy it from you. And the guy said no. And my husband said, well then in her contract it says she's supposed to get it, so I guess I'll just sue you for it. And the guy was like, okay, maybe you can buy it from me. And I think it was like he wanted to make money on it. And we were like, I don't want to have to force you to then give it to me, because I will. So, I don't know. I didn't know any of this was going on, by the way. Because then the next day, the agreement was we would pay him for it, which I think was like $1,500. And, which I wouldn't have ever allowed. I would have been like, don't worry about it, whatever. And then in exchange for the guy got to give it to me the next day and say that he was giving it to me and never tell me that we actually bought it. So I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, that is the kindest night, gave him a big hug, the whole thing. And then later, my husband was like, I bought it. I was like, wait, what? And you let me be like, what the hell? So I had And what was even creepier is that in the pocket was my cough drops. Because I was sick when I wore it, I guess, the last time. I was walking across the street with a pumpkin with Lindsay, and I remember the first day of filming, and I had the flu. It was like, oh God, please don't let anybody know that I'm sick and gonna die, and I don't want them to be mad at me, you know. But if you watch the movie, you can hear I sound like I'm really sick in that scene. And so my cough drops and my little mini sides were in the pocket. The guy was like, hey, look, you even got your cough drops
You
in
didn't
here.
even check the pocket? Oh my
Well,
God.
he liked that my used cough drop was in the pocket. Yeah, it's just, I hope they never see this because he's gonna, write mean things to me. But so this weird stuff happens all the time.
Like, I would love to know where my jacket is. I have no idea where it is. Can anybody find it? Can someone find it, please? Because we had almost the same jackets, and we had all our different I do have the rest of my costume though, because I wore all of my own clothes. So except for the shoes, and the shoes they gave me because they were they wouldn't fit anybody else, and I still wear them today. They're still my favorite boots. So they still have Lynda written inside. So I have everything except for the jacket, but I want that jacket too.
It's because Rob made up these nicknames in the back of the jackets that we didn't know about. Yours was Cherry Bomb, mine was Munchkin. Which was so annoying, which is why I wanted it, because I didn't notice that there was anything written on the back of it until I took it off that day. And I hung it up and was like, that's why I think the boyfriend scene where we're getting it on in the room, he calls me, that's another Rob ad-lib, he calls me Munchie, the boyfriend when we're in that scene, which is like, oh my God, really embarrassing.
All right, you guys mind if we go to the audience for a few questions?
So I have a question in regards to part 2 and the theatrical release and Rob's director's cut version. You guys as far as part 2 of the film, which version, as far as the theatrical release or the director's cut that Rob had released, which version do you guys prefer?
Ooh, I like the asylum. I just thought that was really badass. That ending gave me chills. Yeah, I always thought that he messed, I always asked Rob, what did you do with my smile at the end? He was like, dude, that was you. I was like, I didn't do anything. I was like, ooh, creepy. But, I like them both for different reasons, but I would have to go with that ending for sure.
One where I got shot and he falls in the bar.
Oh yeah,
That's the other one.
Yeah, I like that one.
I always think director's cuts are usually the better ones. It's, especially when the director's the writer.
Yeah, closer to Rob's vision.
Which one did you like?
Honest theatrical release for me.
Nice. Okay, that's it.
All right, about a question on this side over here.
Come on, guys, anything.
This is a Q&A. Oh, there we go. We got 2 so far.
Hi.
Hi.
You guys get a lot of, flack for it being a remake of Halloween compared to the John Carpenter's Halloween. Did you get a lot of, flack for it, or did people feel the need to tell you that they didn't like it as opposed to the other one?
Always.
I like both of them. Yours was my favorite.
It's the when people come to your table and they're like, I really didn't like this movie, but you were great. And it's like, thank you for your opinion, but now please go. No, I'm kidding. I obviously respect everybody's opinion. It's just funny that how people feel so vocal about it, they have to say it, they didn't like it.
Yeah, those are the ones that went and paid to see it 5 times, though.
I had a question. I think Michael Myers may have a slightly different answer than the rest of you, but just as far as in Halloween or other roles that you've been in, maybe some of the most physically demanding or difficult experiences that you've had in a role, as far as like stunts or action scenes or blood or just anything that was particularly challenging from a physical or emotional perspective.
I mean, Halloween was fucking emotional. I mean, the first and the second one. But I think overall, there was actually a couple projects that stand out. I did a movie called The Runaways, which is about Joan Jett, Sheree Curry band, and I played Lita Ford. And I'm a drummer, not like I'm gonna go start a band drummer, but like everything has to be moving. And Lita, I mean, she's lead guitar, so I had to learn. At first, I was cast as a bass player, so I learned bass, and I have small hands. It's really hard for me to play guitar. And you know, I was jamming out. We would have rehearsal like every day before filming, and I was jamming out, and we were just having some fun. And Joan Jett was there every day, and she was watching me play, and she's like, "You play like Lynda." She's like, we're having a hard time finding Lynda. She was the last one cast. So like, do you want to play Lita Ford? I was like, sure, yeah. Had no idea like how to play guitar. So I had like jam packed. Like we would be filming, and we would have like a music scene to do the next day, and I'd have to go meet with the guitar player and Joan and learn the guitar, you know, as much as I could. I mean, the solos, I just had to like fake my way through that stuff. But like everything else, I mean, that was pretty challenging. Rob actually really helped me a lot. He like set me up with a guitar player, and he's like, okay, just gotta take vocal lessons, you know, and all that stuff. Yeah, that was pretty rough. And then I did a movie called American Crime with Ellen Page and Catherine Keener, and it was based off of a true story about a tragedy of this girl dying, and that was pretty emotional for me. It was really rough to know that it was based on a true story, and it was, you know, these kids in this neighborhood would torture this girl in her basement, and they ended up killing her. And like, it really messed with me, because I was working with a lot of young kids, and they were having to do this stuff to this, you know, Ellen Page, and just, I don't know, it messed with me. And also Danielle's scene still messes with me. I watched Halloween 2 for the first time for so long, and I cried when I watched our scene. I don't know why it messes with me.
Because you love me.
I do love you.
Oh, he said it's really different for you.
Well, since you're like an action star, I thought it might be different as far as like lots of physically demanding stuff. So.
Yeah, that's what I do. So. No, there was some stuff in the Halloween, like the when she was crawling up in the rafters with the 2x4. It got a little hairy there. The ceiling did come down on me, and picking up the TV when I was crushing Danny with it, I actually hit the water sprinkler, so the TV started to fall, and I'm trying to catch it. And Rob's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "This is your only TV." So yeah, that was some interesting stuff from that.
Gosh, I have a lot of like physically challenging things that have happened in different ways, but one of the worst ones actually was on a music video for Norah Jones, where there were 2 music videos, and the second one all took place underwater, and they cast me because I'm a rescue diver, and I have no problem being underwater, except for there had been a storm in Texas like the day before, and the water was extremely murky, and there had been runoff from like the towns nearby, which meant that there was probably like hepatitis C in the water, or whichever one comes in the water. I think it's C, right? I don't know. And they still like forced me to do it, and the rescue diver, like the who was with me, he was like, "No, we shouldn't do this," and I was like, "Well, they're telling me we should do it." And you know, when you're the actor, like you don't really dare put your foot down. So the water was freezing, which normally isn't in Texas. It was murky, we couldn't see anything, and the safety guy told me not to do it. And I still did it, and I swear I almost drowned. and we didn't get the shot. So they ended up having to move the shoot to a pool, and I don't even think we ended up getting the thing that they wanted originally. But it was I was so scared, and then I had to get tested for all these hepatitis things because of the water quality. And I swear the director did not give a shit. He just wanted that shot. He could not have cared less if I had drowned as long as he got that shot. So that was intense. God. Jeez. Nora Jones did say not to ever tell that story, but it was so long ago now.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, keep it under wraps. I mean, almost noticeable. Oh gosh, I don't know.
She didn't specifically say that, but
So crazy.
I don't know.
Physically, I would say probably Hatchet 2, just because I was normally in a movie, you get a chance to ramp up to where all hell breaks loose, and because I've replaced somebody and the movie finishes where the other one ended, I had to start at a level 10 and then stay there through the whole movie. So, and you're shooting in 15 days, so it's just a lot of work. But that's a different kind of hard work versus a movie where I did a movie where I was being raped and just was awful. The movie, but it was as an actor, this is amazing, but it was the only time, it was a movie I did called Shiver with this actor, John Jarrett, who's amazing, and he has 2 daughters that were my age, and he was having a hard time physically doing it. And we were filming in some dilapidated shed out in the middle of Oregon in the winter over Christmas break, and it was just, they had to bomb the entire place because it was covered in fleas. So, and here I am scantily clad on an old mattress in a room with, it was just it's one of those where you're okay, I'm excited to do this scene as an actor and I don't ever want to do it again. Give me the whiskey and let me go home. So different, and then covered in blood, obviously. Halloween, I'm gnarly covered in blood, but different kind of blood than covered in blood in the Hatchet movies, which are supposed to be funny, and they are kind of funny when they're doing it to you with big pumps, and they're laughing as they're watching you get just choked out by blood. And then the crappy part is having to be in it for the rest of those movies. That's never really fun. So there are different kinds of, depending on what kind of horror movie you're doing, if it's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek or real, it can kind of affect you differently.
We appreciate you putting it on the line for our entertainment.
Thank you.
I've got a question for Tyler. You've done professional wrestling as well as acting. What do you find to be the most challenging?
Oh God, dealing with those chicks.
Yeah, right. There are 2 different things. When you're wrestling in a match, you're wrestling for that 10, 20 minutes and then you're done. With film, you can do the same scene over and over to get different angles, close-ups, wides. You can do the same thing for 16 hours a day, So they're both physically demanding, but in different ways. But with the wrestling, you're in a different city every night. The traveling's the hard part, and it's a lonely lifestyle, So.
All right, so Keaton's got the mic for audience questions.
As a father myself, Brad Dorff's reaction to Finding Annie and Halloween 2 is absolutely heartbreaking to me. What was y'all's reaction seeing that for the first time? Seeing that scene for the first time?
It was heartbreaking. I love Brad, and actually he didn't want to see me. He needed to sort of to seclude himself. He didn't want to be anywhere around me when he did that scene. I thought maybe he knew what I really looked like to be able to get an idea. And I had no problem being in there and showing him, and he just couldn't handle it. He was like, I got this, It was heart-wrenching, but he's got a kid too. Does it ever affect you, Tyler, killing or hurting younger people? Because you've got a lot of kids. I don't know, I've never been a killer, I think, you're going after, young,
Yeah, a glass of wine at the end of the day, or some scotch, and it's all good.
I don't know if you guys saw Proxy, but in it, I beat up a pregnant woman. So I am the killer in that movie. I'm totally fucked up. It's also one of my favorite roles, which is so messed up. But If you haven't seen the movie, you should definitely watch it. It's a great movie. It's an ensemble piece, and but that was like crazy. I felt like really fucked up because of that. Like, and I remember I was in Indiana, and like the whole time I just had to be in this place where I knew that I just killed this pregnant woman and her baby, like, you know, or her baby, not her. And anyway, so yeah.
That's just horrible. Disgusting. I haven't even done that.
It's horrible, and I
wow.
It like affected me a lot.
I was mean.
No, you should. You haven't seen Proxy? Definitely watch it. Like you'll be scared. But I had short hair back then, so it only comes with the short hair.
Oh, okay, we're good then. We're good.
If you had a scene from the John Carpenter Halloween and to bring into y'all's movie, what would it be?
See an actual like.
From the original.
Stumped us.
Yeah, you stumped us, man.
We've never watched the first one.
Yeah, right?
What would you bring in there?
Probably the scene where Michael Myers is like hiding behind the bush.
Oh, and then he comes out, like, right.
We tried to do that, but the bushes were too short. So we had to write it out. Sorry.
Oh, you're gonna be tall.
All right, guys, we got time for 2 more questions. Who's got a question?
This question is for Mr. Bain. When you're filming these movies and you are killing these ladies, are you the type of actor that kind of like stays in the trailer and just want to like interact with them, or are you just like, let's just have a good time and I'll just kill you in the movie later?
Now I'm just out there having a good time joking around, and then they go, okay, you need to kill somebody. I put the mask on, I go, where's the knife? And then I just try to keep up to them, like, you know. It is. It's like with that scene with Danielle when we did that room. I mean, she was taking off before they yelled action. I'm like, just stop, get back here. She goes, you're gonna have to catch me. Like, son of a
I think we had some talk about, I said, like, I'm the sheriff's daughter, I'm not gonna let you get me. So, I mean, I'm gonna know how to fight, so you better come, like, I'm gonna bounce. And then we got out, and then I got out.
And then she bounced so, I was like, she was gone, and then I learned. So, you know, when they started yelling rolling, I was grabbing her.
Yeah.
And I still barely got her.
That's how the scene of me coming out the front door kind of came about, because Annie was written to run into the kitchen, like what happened in Halloween 2, essentially. And then I was supposed to get the knife to, I don't know if you guys knew this, I was supposed to get the knife to the stomach like Maya's character got in the second one, Annie was supposed to get. And I think first I ended up getting out the front door, so we added that in, and then I think you were having a hard time getting me over your shoulder from the kitchen floor because my boots kept slipping off, remember?
Oh yeah, I kept grabbing your boot, and I have a boot in my hand with a knife, and I'm like...
your mask, and you're like, I wouldn't let you get me, and then he was like, fuck it, just drag her out.
Yeah.
So they dragged me out, and then you find me laying there, but I was supposed to have been picked up and then thrown on the dining room table and stabbed.
Which I did to...
Which you did to Maya in the second one.
Maya,
Yeah. So sometimes things have to be rewritten on the spot. Or I could have just cooperated and let him pick me up, but...
She was not having that.
I think that's a great shot of you coming out of the door.
I love that. That's the best. Yes, so good. Again, on the fly. Rob's like, put the camera across the street.
Because I always think that. I'm like, sometimes I sit, like, you know, where I'm at, and I'm like, what if something's going on, like, right there, or over there, and you just don't know it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would you run if you're passing by the door, right? You would just assume go out it.
Yeah.
Instead of further into like being caught. So hopefully you go Otherwise, I mean, I don't know. Then that could have been the end of the movie. So.
There we go.
Hi, my question for Danielle Harris. Your character, Jamie, will she be able to return to original Halloween?
Maybe Halloween 4 she'll come back. No, I think she's, well, I think that character's, that'd be weird for me to pick her and then another one and then come back again. I mean, I highly doubt that would happen, but you never know in this franchise.
This is for Danielle. Were you disappointed that you didn't get to be the killer in Halloween 5?
I mean, I think I thought I was going to be. I was more disappointed that I didn't have any lines. I was 11. I don't think I really got it. But in retrospect, as an adult, I think it was just maybe a little bit too early. You know, it was like 1990. I don't think viewers are really ready to see. And it would have been weird. Like, what am I going to be, his sidekick? Like, we going to be killing people together? You know? Because you can't not have Michael Myers. I mean, I was a kid, so it would have been, like, if that would really have happened, if they would have written it that way, what would that have looked like? It would have been so stupid.
Well, I mean, instead of not a sidekick.
I mean, they learned their lesson by not having Michael Myers in one of them, didn't they?
Yeah, that's true.
So you kind of can't. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I hope they learned their lesson.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today. Please put your hands down. Thank you guys.